Good morning from across the loch in sunny Bangor. These are a few thoughts on light in the darkness. The last few weeks have marked a time when people usually gathered at Newgrange in the Boyne Valley, a place older than Stonehenge, a World Heritage Site twinned with Machu Picchu and the Pyramids of Giza. It's just one of many Neolithic pilgrimage places seeded from Brittany and Iberia. Its giant mound on high ground covers a passage grave. The massive stones in this burial chamber align to receive a single winter solstice sunbeam. You have to bow to enter the 19-metre passageway, long, narrowing, as if you're peering down a portal to the past. At times it's claustrophobic, and you turn sideways, crouch, squeeze through, then press on to release and relief in a cross-shaped chamber, where the ancestors' ashes once lay, laced with jewellery, amber beads and blood-red ochre. The guide informs you that the solstice display can be replicated. So clustered together, we watch bulbs dim, waiting as people did 5,000 years ago for the first ray to penetrate the roof box. Suddenly, a pencil of pale ambient sunlight arrives and moves down the passageway, becoming a beam, providing what I'd begun to believe was a study of light, for a moment not scattered, but a fragment of its force captured and concentrated, distilled down for a close quarter encounter with a living entity, one that warmed the earth and coaxed forth life. A transcendent moment of pilgrimage to light, facilitated by sophisticated stargazers tracking celestial alignments. Of course, we can't see light, only by it, but we're still drawn to its beams. It's also a time when other stargazers are storied, Zoroastrian Magi who gathered themselves to follow another alignment, a sky portent to herald the birth of a child king. In a time when the pursuit of the light moved from the outer to the inner realm, from study of the heavens to navigation of an inner kingdom, in a step change of consciousness to inner light. But the pilgrimage there was far from smooth, as T.S. Eliot sought to represent in his poem The Journey of the Magi. A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year for a journey, and such a long journey. The very dead of winter, the ways deep and the weather sharp, and the camels galled, sore-footed, refractory, lying down in the melting snow. There were times we regretted the summer palaces on slopes, the terraces, and the silken girls bringing sherbet. Then the camel men cursing and grumbling and running away and wanting their liquor and women, and the night fires going out, and the lack of shelters, and the cities hostile, and the towns unfriendly, and the villages dirty and charging high prices. A hard time we had of it. At the end we preferred to travel all night, sleeping in snatches, with the voices singing in our ears, saying that this was all folly. But it wasn't. A journey of 1,000 miles or more that unsettled all their expectations, to an event signalling a world in transition, when, as a Rich Mullins lyric has it, the old world started dying and the new world started coming on. It's a story about journey rather than arrival, about a presence over presents, and about what may arise on the way. The Magi returned home, but were perhaps no longer at ease there, as Eliot portrays it, in the old dispensation, with what then felt like an alien people clutching their gods. They'd sensed the power of an event stating that God is light and there is no darkness in him, and that the divine is love, period, and we his children. And the story then passed down the generations like a lit candle to dress the darkness. Of course, our nativity presentations compress the timelines. Matthew indicates that the wise men arrived in Bethlehem later, to a house, not a stable, to a young child, and not a babe. It was before an infant's feet Magi fell, before a person, not a place, before the light of the world. A child swayed in the womb of a mother acquainted with the road, and one who'd soon be forced to flee into the night from another darkness, intent to pogrom babes and toddlers. She and Joseph had had to wait for further reassurance beyond shepherd heralds. Reassurance that history would hinge on their baby king. For them, as in R.S. Thomas's poem, Kneeling, the meaning was indeed in the waiting. As it has been for us, through Advent and to Epiphany, something Phil's meditation group understand, and it's acted like a rally point for me this Advent season, a post to tie yourself to in the storm of siren voices calling out. And when they do, we might remember that others have been here before us. I recently listened to an interview with the historian Tom Holland. He spoke of finding fresh resonance in rereading Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, written in a time of plague, where people gathered at an inn in springtime to set out to the tomb of Thomas à Becket, for their plague, like ours, was always worse in winter and eased off in spring. Tom Holland had the sense that there might be comfort found in following the footsteps of other travellers who had navigated their own times of turmoil to journey on in hope. So he shyly admitted he'd begun, in stages, his own walk to Canterbury. I wonder to where might we wander in the days ahead, to places of meaning, tangible or imaginal, to reconnect with the light. A place perhaps a short drive or a short walk away, somewhere as Keane and Lily Allen almost sang, somewhere only you know. Finally, a few words of tough love from Thomas Merton on focusing on the now, words which seem very relevant. In a time of drastic change, one can be preoccupied with what is ending, or too obsessed with what seems to be beginning. We do not need to know precisely what is happening, or exactly where it is all going. What we need is to recognize the possibilities and challenges offered by the present moment, and to embrace them with courage, faith, and hope. In such an event, he says, courage is the authentic form taken by love, something also modelled out by Mary, Joseph, and Magi.